My wife betrayed me with her boss right in front of me, and revenge tasted better than love. I was standing there in the corner of that fancy corporate party when I saw my wife of 10 years slip into the office with her boss. Through the crack in the door, their lips met their hands, exploring each other like teenagers. My beer bottle nearly shattered in my grip. 10 years of marriage, our 8-year-old daughter at home with a babysitter, and Mary was throwing it all away right before my eyes. My name is Jake Matthews, 36 years old, master carpenter and home renovator in a small Kentucky town where everybody knows everybody's business. Or at least they think they do. What they didn't know was that my picture-perfect marriage had just imploded in front of me at Riverside Construction's annual Christmas party. "You all right, man? You look like you've seen a ghost," said Dennis Mary's coworker, slapping me on the back. I forced a smile. My jaw clenched so tight, I thought my teeth might crack. Just not feeling well. "Oh, think I might head out already. Mary just told me you guys were staying till the end." Of course she did, because Mary had plans tonight that didn't include me going home early. "Changed my mind," I muttered, downing the rest of my beer. In my younger days, I would have kicked that door open, dragged Richard Wells, the high and mighty CEO of Riverside Construction, out by his designer tie, and rearranged his perfect white teeth right there on the polished hardwood floor. I almost did. My body actually moved toward the office before my brain caught up. But at 30, with a daughter I adored and a previous assault charge from my wilder years that nearly landed me in prison, I knew better. Violence would cost me everything. My freedom, my business, my daughter, and Mary. Well, it was becoming clear I'd already lost her. So I walked out, grabbed my coat, stepped into the cold December air, and drove home in silence, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The Christmas lights on our street seemed to mock me as I pulled into our driveway. Mr. Matthews called Tina, our teenage babysitter from next door. "Your early Abby's already asleep. I paid her extra and sent her home." Then, I sat in our living room in the dark, surrounded by family photos and wedding memories waiting. I waited 3 hours. When Mary finally came home, she was humming. Actually humming as she hung up her coat. "Jake, why are you sitting in the dark?" She flipped on the light and I saw her. Then lipstick, slightly smudged hair, not quite as neat as when she'd left home, had a headache, I said flatly. "Party end early." "No, it was still going when I left." "I told you not to wait up." She wasn't even trying to hide it. Well, Richard needed help. Organizing some files for the Henderson project. "You know how important that account is?" "Richard? Not Mr. Wells anymore?" Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe fear. But she recovered quickly. "We've been working closely on this project. The whole office is on a first-name basis." Now I could have confronted her right then, have told her what I saw, but a strange calm had settled over me. A clarity I hadn't felt in years. "I'm going to bed," was all I said. That night, lying beside my unfaithful wife, I didn't sleep. I planned the next morning I was in my workshop before dawn. Our detached garage I'd converted years ago into my sanctuary. The smell of sawdust and varnish usually brought me peace. Today, it fueled my focus. "Daddy, what are you making?" Abby's voice came from the doorway. My beautiful daughter, blonde, pigtails and curious eyes, so much like her mother it almost hurt to look at her. "Hey, sweetheart, just working on some ideas." I smiled, putting down my pencil. I'd been sketching plans for a restoration project. Not for a client, but for myself. "Can I help?" She was already reaching for her little work apron, a miniature version of mine. I'd made her last Christmas. Always. I lifted her onto my workbench. "Want to help me sand this piece while she worked?" Tongue sticking out in concentration, I thought about Mary, about Richard, about what I was going to do. Mary appeared in the doorway an hour later, coffee mug in hand. "There you two are. Abby, breakfast is ready. 5 more minutes." "Mom, I'm helping Daddy." Mary sighed. "Jake, She's getting sawdust all over her pajamas. She's fine, Mary. We're bonding. We'll bond over breakfast. We're meeting my parents at 11. Remember, I'd forgotten Sunday brunch with the in-laws. The thought of sitting across from Mary's father, who'd always looked at me like I wasn't good enough for his daughter, while pretending everything was normal, made my stomach turn. You go ahead, I said. Tell them I'm finishing up an emergency job. Mary's eyes narrowed. On Sunday, what emergency job, the Hendersons? I threw her own. Lie back at her. You know how important that account is. She flinched just slightly. Fine, come on, Abby. After they left, I made some calls. First to my buddy Oliver, who worked at the bank. Then to Nathan Davis, a real estate agent I'd done some work for last year. By noon, I had an appointment to view a property. He following day, Oi, I need to talk business, man, I said when he picked up. On a Sunday? This sounds serious, Oliver replied. Dead serious. I need to set up a separate account and possibly secure a loan business expansion. Finally going out on your own about time, Mary, on board with this? I paused, choosing my words carefully. This is my project. Mary's got her own career priorities right now. Oliver was silent for a moment. Everything okay with you two? Just meet me at Carson's Diner tomorrow morning before work, I said, avoiding the question. I'll fill you in. That night, I searched our home office while Mary was bathing Abby. Her phone was charging on the desk. For a moment, I considered checking it. The messages between her and Richard would surely be there, but I didn't need to see more evidence of her betrayal. Instead, I looked through the Riverside construction files she occasionally brought home. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Duplicate invoices, one for the client showing premium materials, another for the supplier showing economy grade, permit applications with falsified information. Safety inspections signed off by the same person every time someone named Alan Reeves. I took pictures with my phone, then carefully returned everything exactly as I'd found it. Knowledge was power, and I intended to be very powerful indeed. The house was a wreck, a historic Victorian on the edge of town that had been abandoned for years. Peeling paint, rotting porch, buckled floors. Most people would see a money pit. I saw potential. I saw my future. You sure about the... This is Jake? Nathan asked as we stood in what was once the living room. This place needs everything. That's exactly why I want it. I ran my hand along the original crown molding. Good bones history character, and most importantly, nobody else wants it. Well, the price is right, I'll give you that. Banks practically giving it away to avoid maintaining it. By the end of the week, I'd secured a loan and bought the property. Mary was furious when I told her. You did! What she shrieked, pacing our kitchen. We can barely afford this mortgage. And you bought another house without even talking to me. It's an investment, I said calmly. I'm going to restore it and flip it. With what time you're already working, 60 hours a week. I'll manage. I took a sip of my coffee. Besides, I thought you'd be happy having me out of your hair more often. Her eyes flashed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just that you seem to be working late a lot yourself these days. How is the Henderson project going? Richard's still needing a lot of private help. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're implying, but I don't like your tone and I don't like coming second to your boss. But here we are. She slammed her hand on the counter. This is about your ego, isn't it? You can't stand that I'm building a career while you're still hammering nails for a living. That stung, but I didn't let it show. If that's what you think this is about, you don't know me at all. Maybe I don't, she snapped. Maybe I never did. The argument ended there, but something had shifted between us. The pretense was cracking, and in a way, it was a relief. That night after Mary went to bed, I made another call. This one to an old high school buddy, Scott Warner, who now worked for the State Attorney General's office. In the white-collar crime division, Jake Matthews, as I live and breathe. Scott said, must be 5 years since we've talked at least, I admitted. How's the family growing? Third kid on the way. You still with Mary for now? I said the words, tasting bitter. Listen, I need advice, hypothetically speaking. Oh boy, nothing good ever follows those words. But go ahead. If someone discovered evidence of construction fraud, substituting materials, falsifying permits, that kind of thing, how would they report it? Hypothetically, Scott was quiet for a moment. This about Riverside construction by any chance? I nearly dropped the phone. We've had complaints before. Nothing solid enough to build a case on Wells is careful. And he's got friends in the county offices, Scott lowered his voice. But if someone had actual documentation, hypothetically, they should gather as much as possible without breaking any laws. Then bring it to my office directly, not the local authorities. I understood perfectly. Thanks for the advice. Counselor Jake Scott said before hanging up. Whatever you're involved in, be careful. Wells isn't someone to mess with lightly. Little did Scott know I wasn't messing with Richard lightly. I was going to destroy him, Metho. Dikely completely, and he would never see it coming. I threw myself into the Victorian. Every night after my regular jobs every weekend, Mary stopped asking where I was going. She was working late more often. Anyway, Oliver helped me with the financials, setting up a separate business account for what I was now calling Matthew's Restoration. My buddy Liam, a plumber, pitched in with the bathroom and kitchen renovations at cost. In exchange for me building custom cabinets for his wife. You're really going all in on this, huh? Liam asked one Saturday as we ripped out the ancient cast iron tub. It's either this or go crazy, I admitted. Trouble at home? He wasn't just asking to be nosy, Liam, and I had been friends since high school. I hesitated, then told him what I'd seen at the Christmas party. That son of a Liam growled, "Want me to help you break his legs?" I laughed. The first genuine laugh I'd had in weeks. Tempting, but no, I've got something better in mind. What's that? Living well, I said. And maybe a little karma along the way. What I didn't tell Liam was about the documentation I was quietly gathering. Every contractor who'd ever worked with the Riverside construction had a story, and many had kept paperwork, either as insurance or because they felt guilty about the corners they'd been forced to cut. I was building two things simultaneously, a business and a case. Both required patience, attention to detail, and strategic planning. While Richard Wells lived large in his McMansion, with his company cars and tailored suits, I was working 16-hour days, sleeping on a cot in the Victorian some nights. But every piece of molding I restored, every bit of evidence I collected, was a step toward my new life. During this time, Mary and I existed in a Cold War state. We shared meals, occasionally went through the motions of marriage for Abby's sake, but the distance between us grew daily. Mary's absences became more frequent. Her excuse is more elaborate. It's a 3-day conference in Louisville, she told me one Thursday night while packing a small suitcase. Richard says it's crucial for the Henderson project. I'm sure it is, I replied without looking up for my paperwork. Give Richard my best. Her hand stilled on the suitcase. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what I said. I finally looked at her, keeping my expression neutral. Send my regards to your boss. That's the polite thing to do, isn't it? She zipped her suitcase with more force than necessary. I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but I don't like it. Funny, I was thinking the same about you. After she left, I sat down with Abby to explain that Mommy was away for work and that we would have a daddy otter weekend. Can we camp in the Victorian? She asked excitedly. I'd taken her there a few times, carefully supervising her in the partially renovated house. Not for Sleeping Pumpkin, but we can work on it together tomorrow after school. While Abby was in bed, I made one more call to Alan Reeves, the safety inspector whose signature appeared on all of Riverside's permits. I'd found his number through a mutual acquaintance who owed me a favor. Mr. Reeves, I said when he answered, my name is Jake Matthews. I'm a contractor in the area. Matthews? He sounded uncertain. Don't think I know you. No reason you should, but I know quite a bit about you, specifically about your relationship with Riverside Construction. Silence fell on the line. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do, I have copies of inspections you signed off on for projects where substandard materials were used. Projects that wouldn't pass a legitimate inspection. Is this some kind of shakedown? His voice rose. Because if it is, it's not. I interrupted. I don't want your money. I want information. I'm hanging up now. Before you do, I said quickly, you should know. I'm not the only one with copies of those documents. If anything happens to me, they go straight to the State Attorney General's office. More silence, then, what do you want? Everything you know about Richard Wells's operation? Who else is involved? How deep it goes? How long it's been happening? Why should I tell you anything? Because I'm giving you a chance to get ahead of this, I said, keeping my voice level. When not, if this all comes crashing down, the first person to cooperate usually gets the best deal. Reeves sighed heavily. Meet me tomorrow. Carson's Diner, 7 a.m. Come alone. When I arrived at Carson's the next morning, Reeves was already there nursing a cup of coffee, looking like he hadn't slept. He was older than I expected, maybe in his late 50s, with the worn look of a man carrying a heavy burden. I've been doing this for 15 years, he said, without preamble, as I slid into the booth across from him. Not just for Riverside, for half a dozen companies. It started small, overlooking minor issues, giving contractors a break on deadlines. Then it escalated. To outright fraud, I finished. He nodded miserably. Wells is the worst of them. Nothing's ever enough. He keeps pushing the envelope, cutting deeper corners, taking bigger risks. And my wife, Mary Matthews, what's her role in all this? Reeves looked surprised. Your wife works for Wells. I'm sorry, man. She handles the documentation, right? The paperwork, submissions. I nodded. Then she knows. Maybe not everything, but enough. Wells doesn't keep people around who don't play ball. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd already known it in my gut. Mary wasn't just sleeping with Richard, she was complicit in his crimes. What changed your mind? I asked, why are you willing to talk now? Reeves stared into his coffee. My grandson, he and his wife just bought their first home built by Riverside. Every time I visit them, I wonder what's lurking behind those walls. What might fail when they have kids running around? He looked up at me, eyes haunted. I can't do it anymore. Would you be willing to make a statement to the authorities? Not yet, he said quickly, but I'll give you names, dates, details. Maybe that'll be enough to start an investigation without me. It was more than enough. By the time I left Carson's, I had 3 pages of notes and a thumb drive. Reeves had kept his insurance. Combined with what I'd already gathered, it was the foundation of a case that would bring Richard Wells to his knees. Karma came calling sooner than I expected. A month into my renovation project, I was at the lumberyard picking up materials when I overheard a conversation that made me stop cold. Yeah, another Riverside job, said a contractor. I recognized as one of Richard's regular subcontractors. Wells wants us to use the grade B materials, but bill the client for premium. Same as always. Man's going to get himself in trouble one of these days, said the clerk. Not as long as everyone's getting paid. The contractor replied with a wink. I stepped around the corner. Couldn't help overhearing, you work Riverside jobs? Often the contractor eyed me suspiciously. Who's asking Jake Matthews? I'm restoring the old Victorian on Maple. Oh yeah, I've driven by. Nice project. His posture relaxed. Yeah, I do most of their electrical. Why just curious about their operations? My wife works there. Oh yeah, who's your wife? Mary Matthews, Richard's assistant. His eyes widened slightly. Oh, right. Yeah, she handles a lot of the paperwork. The way he said it told me everything. Mary wasn't just sleeping with Richard. She was in on his schemes. So this grade B material being billed as premium, that happened a lot, he shrugged. Business as usual for Riverside. Look, I got to go. He hurried off, but I'd heard enough. That night, I called my old friend Tyler Bishop. He'd left carpentry years ago to become a building inspector for the county. Tyler, it's Jake, I need a favor. Tyler's response was immediate. Name it. I need you to look into something unofficially. Riverside Construction's materials versus what they're billing for. Wells's outfit, I've had my suspicions for years. But he's careful. always has his pet inspector, Alan Reeves, sign off on everything. What if I told you I have evidence and that Reeves might be willing to talk? Tyler was silent for a moment. That would change everything. But Jake, why are you involved in this? I took a deep breath. It's personal, Mary, he said, understanding immediately Tyler had been at our wedding. Shit, man, I'm sorry, don't be sorry, be thorough. I want this airtight. What happened next unfolded more quickly than I'd anticipated. Tyler took my evidence to his supervisor, who recognized its significance immediately. Within days, a quiet investigation was underway, with the State Attorney General's office involved. From the start, to avoid any local interference from Richard's connections. As the investigation gained momentum, I kept my head down and focused on the Victorian. But Richard, with his network of cronies, must have caught wind that something was brewing. One morning, I arrived at the Victorian to find the front door kicked in and the interior vandalized. Fresh drywall smashed, restored trim ripped from the walls, new windows shattered. Standing in the wreckage, I felt a cold fury building inside me. This wasn't just about Mary anymore. This was direct intimidation. I called the police, filed a report, and then made one more call to Scott at the AG's office. They're getting nervous, I told him. This is a message. Document everything Scott advised, and Jake, watch your back. If Wells is willing to vandalize property, he might not stop there. That night, a black SUV cruised slowly past my house 3 times. I sat on the porch in the darkness, a baseball bat beside me, daring them to make a move. They didn't, but the message was clear. Richard knew I was involved. Instead of intimidating me, it only hardened my resolve. The next day, I installed security cameras at both the Victorian and my home. I also hired 2 off-duty deputies as security for the renovation site, a necessary expense that cut into my profits but ensured the work could continue. Word about the vandalism spread quickly through our small town. What Richard hadn't counted on was the backlash. Contractors, who had remained silent about Riverside's practices, began reaching out to me, offering additional evidence, volunteering labor to repair the damage to the Victorian, standing in solidarity against the bullying tactics. By the end of the week, I had more help than I could manage, and the Victorian's restoration was back on track, progressing even faster than before. Richard's attempt to intimidate me had backfired spectacularly, turning a personal vendetta into a community cause. Meanwhile, the Victorian was coming together beautifully. I'd hired 2 skilled workers who had been laid off from another construction company. They were grateful for the work, and I was grateful for their craftsmanship. Word was starting to spread about the quality of our restoration. One evening, I was at the Victorian, late measuring for custom moldings in what would be the master bedroom when headlights swept across the windows. A car had pulled into the driveway. I tensed, wondering if Richard had somehow gotten wind of my involvement in the investigation. But it was Mary who walked through the front door, looking around in wonder at the transformation already taking place. "So this is where you've been disappearing to," she said, running her hand along a newly restored banister. "I had to ask around town to find it." "What are you doing here, Mary? I wanted to see it. See what was so important that you've barely been home for weeks." She continued moving through the house, examining the details, the craftsmanship. "It's beautiful work. Jake, I'd forgotten how talented you are." "Thanks," I said, not trusting her sudden appreciation. "Why are you really here?" She turned to face me, her expression serious. "Richard proposed to me today. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, but I kept my face neutral." "Congratulations, I haven't given him an answer yet." "Why not? Isn't this what you've been working toward? The affair, the late nights, the lays." Her eyes flashed with anger. "It wasn't like that. It just happened. Things like that. It just happened. Mary, they're choices. Hundreds of small choices that lead to one big betrayal. Like you buying this house without telling me. Starting a business behind my back, I had to laugh at the comparison. I'm not sleeping with this house. Mary, I'm investing in my future. A future I'm increasingly certain doesn't include you. So that's it. 10 years of marriage, and you're just giving up. I'm not the one who gave up, I'd quietly. You did that the moment you decided Richard Wells was worth betraying everything we built together. She moved closer to me, her perfume. The expensive kind Richard probably bought her, filling my senses. We could start over, I could tell Richard no. We could go to counseling, try again. For the briefest moment, I wavered. The familiar pull of her. The memory of happier times. The thought of keeping our family intact for Abby's sake. But then I remembered the look on her face when she came home from the Christmas party. How easily the lies had flowed. How complicit she was in Richard's schemes. No, I said firmly. I'm not interested in being your backup plan, Mary. Not anymore. Her expression hardened. You'll regret this when I'm Mrs. Richard Wells living in a mansion, while you're still getting sawdust under your fingernails. Better honest sawdust than dishonest luxury, I replied. Does Richard know about the state investigation? Yet her face went pale. What investigation? The one into Riverside's fraudulent practices, the substituted materials, the falsified permits, the cookbooks? It's all coming to light. Marion, soon. You're lying. Schumann, she whispered. But the fear in her eyes told me she knew it was true. Go home, I said. And whatever you decide about Richard's proposal, you might want to consult a lawyer first. You're going to need one. She fled without another word. I stood in the empty Victorian, surrounded by the honest work of my hands, and felt a strange peace settle over me. The confrontation I'd been dreading for months was finally over, and I was still standing. 2 days later, I was having lunch with Tyler, when Richard Wells himself walked into the diner. The busy restaurant fell silent as he spotted me and made a beeline for our table. Matthews, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. I think it's time we had a chat. Tyler started to stand, but I put a hand on his arm. It's fine. This was bound to happen eventually. Richard pulled up a chair uninvited. Up close, he looked worse than I expected. His usually impeccable appearance marred by dark circles under his eyes and a rumpled suit. Whatever game you're playing, it stops now, he said, leaning in close. I built this town, Matthews. I've got friends in places you can't imagine. Is that why you sent someone to trash my property? Because of all your important friends? I kept my voice calm, aware that every eye in the diner was on us. I don't know what you're talking about. He scoffed, but his eyes shifted away. Sure you do? Just like you know about the investigation. Just like you know your empire of lies is crumbling. I leaned forward. How's it feel? Richard watching everything you built fall apart? His face flushed with anger. You think you're so clever? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I do. I'm dealing with a fraud who cuts corners, cheats clients, and sleeps with other men's wives. I smiled coldly, and soon everyone else will know too. Richard's hands shot out, grabbing my shirt front. You son of a... I didn't flinch. Go ahead, Richard. Make a scene. Add assault to your growing list of problems. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. Then, awareness of our audience seemed to penetrate his rage. He released my shirt, standing abruptly. This isn't over, he hissed. You're right about that, I agreed. It's just beginning. As he stormed out, conversation slowly resumed around us. Tyler looked at me with new respect. Damn, Jake. I've never seen anyone stand up to Wells like that. Thus, I shrugged, but inside, I felt 10-tall bullies only have power when you're afraid of them. And I'm not afraid of Richard Wells anymore. The Riverside construction scandal broke 3 weeks later. An anonymous tip, not from me, actually. Turns out Richard had made plenty of enemies, led to inspections of their recent projects. The substitution of substandard materials was just the beginning. There were permit violations, code issues, even some creative accounting that caught the attention of the IRS. The local paper ran the story on the front page. I watched Mary's face as she read it over breakfast. "This is a witch hunt," she said, her voice shaking. "Richard would never save it." "Mary," I cut her off. "We both know what kind of man Richard Wells is." Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear there of anything. "What do you mean?" I know everything. "The affair, the fraud, all of it." She dropped the newspaper. "Jake, I stood up. I don't want to hear it. Not in front of Abby. Our daughter was in the living room, blissfully unaware, as she watched Saturday morning cartoons. "We need to talk about this," Mary hissed. "We will. But right now, I'm going to work." Work meant the Victorian, which was coming along beautifully. The exterior was restored to its original glory. The inside modernized while preserving its historic charm. I'd already had 2 offers from interested buyers, even before it was finished, while Riverside construction was imploding. Matthews. Restoration was taking flight. I'd hired 2 workers, good men who'd been laid off when Richard's company started losing contracts. Word was getting around about my work, my attention to detail, my honesty with clients. One afternoon, a luxury sedan pulled up to the Victorian. A well-dressed man in his 60s stepped out looking appreciatively at the restored facade. "Mr. Matthews," he called. "Got a minute to talk." His name was Howard Garrison, a prominent local developer with a reputation for high-end projects. He'd heard about my work and wanted to see it for. "Stand impressive," he said as I showed him through the house. "Very impressive. You have an eye for preserving character while making spaces livable for modern families." "Thank you, sir. That's exactly what I aim for." He handed me his card. "I'm developing a new neighborhood on the old Westbrook estate. 15 historic homes that need this kind of careful restoration. I've been looking for the right contractor, someone who values quality over cutting corners." He looked me directly in the eyes. "Someone who isn't Richard Wells." My heart raced. This was the kind of opportunity that could establish Matthews Restoration as a premier company in the region. I'd be very interested in discussing that project. "Mr. Garrison, good. Come to my office Monday morning and bring your portfolio. If the rest of your work matches this, I think we'll have a lot to talk about that evening." Mary was waiting when I got home. Abby was at a sleepover with a friend. "Richard was arrested today," she said, her eyes red from crying. "They're say. Nung, it's fraud tax evasion. Jake, they came to the office and took all our files. They questioned everyone, including me." "And what did you tell them?" I kept my voice neutral, that I didn't know anything. She was pacing now, and I didn't. "Not about the illegal stuff. But you knew he was cutting corners, substituting materials." She stopped. "How did you—" "Everyone knew Mary, the whole town. The only question was when it would catch up to him. It wasn't like that. He was trying to keep the business afloat during tough times by cheating his clients, by putting people in unsafe homes." My calm was slipping. "And what was your excuse for cheating on me? Was that for the good of the company too?" She sank onto the couch, her defiance crumbling. "You knew I saw you at the Christmas party in his office." "Well, Jake, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. 3 months of late nights didn't mean anything. The whispered phone calls. The way you pulled away every time I touched you," I shook my head. "Don't insult me by lying." "Now what are you going to do?" she whispered. "I already did it. Mary, I rebuilt my life while you were tearing ours down." Her head snapped up. "Was it you? Did you report Richard?" "No. Turns out I didn't have to. When you build a business on lies, it eventually collapses under its own weight." I told her about the Victorian, about Matthews Restoration, about the offers I'd already received. I told her I'd be moving out the following week, and about my meeting with Howard Garrison. "You've been planning this all along," she accused, anger, replacing her tears. "Setting yourself up while watching Richard and me fall. I've been building something honest," I corrected her. "Something I can be proud of, something Abby can be proud of." "You can't take Abby," she said immediately. "I'm not taking her, but I'm not giving her up either. We'll work out a custody arrangement, and us." Her voice was small. "There is no us anymore, Mary. You made sure of that." The Victorians sold for twice. What I'd invested, I bought a smaller house closer to AB's school and set up my business office in the converted garage. 6 months after leaving my marital home, Matthews Restoration had 8 full-time employees and a contract with Howard Garrison that would keep us busy for the next 2 years. The Garrison project became our signature achievement, featured in regional home magazines and bringing in clients from neighboring states. I was no longer just Jake the handyman. I was Jake Matthews, restoration specialist, known for integrity and craftsmanship. Richard Wells was sentenced to 5 years for fraud and tax evasion. Riverside Construction was dissolved, its assets sold to cover debts. Mary lost her job and her lover in one fell swoop. She called me one night, her voice slurred from wine. "He said he loved me," she sobbed. "He said we would be together after you and I divorced. But as soon as things got tough, he blamed everything on me. Said I was the one who kept the records that I should have known. His lawyer even suggested I was the mastermind. Dubby." "Are you?" I asked. "Of course not. I just did what he told me to do." "Like you always do," I said softly. She was quiet for a moment. "I miss you. Jake, I miss our family. I miss what we had too. But it's gone. It doesn't have to be. We could try again for Abby's sake. Abby deserves parents who respect each other, who are honest with each other. I can change," she insisted. "So can I." "So have I sighed. "That's the point. Mary, we're not the same people anymore." The final twist in our story came unexpectedly. Mary, facing possible charges as an accessory to Richard's crimes, made a deal with prosecutors. In exchange for her testimony and full cooperation, she received probation instead of jail time. What she revealed went beyond what even I had uncovered. Richard's fraud extended to political connections, bribes to local officials, and a network of corrupt inspectors beyond just Alan Reeves. The scandal widened, reaching into the mayor's office and the county zoning board. Through it all, I kept my head down and focused on my business, on being a good father to Abby during my custody. Days and on building a new life, I'd begun dating Ellie Phillips, an interior designer who worked with me on the Garrison project. We kept it professional at work, but there was an undeniable connection between us. On a crisp fall afternoon, a year after the Christmas party that changed everything, I stood in the gleaming kitchen of a fully restored 1920s craftsman bungalow, my latest project and biggest success yet. Abby was with Mary for the weekend. Ellie was arranging flowers on the island for the open house tomorrow. "Earth to Jake," she said, waving her hand in front of my face. "Where'd you go just now?" "Just thinking about how much has changed in a year." She wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. "For the better," I hope I turned to face her. "Definitely for the better." The doorbell rang. Probably the photographer I'd hired to take pictures for the listing. Instead, I opened the door to find Mary standing there. "I need to talk to you," she said, then stopped when she saw Ellie. "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." "Ellie Phillips, this is Mary Matthews." "My ex-wife," I said, keeping my voice level. "Mary, this is Ellie, my girlfriend and business partner." Mary's smile was brittle. "How nice. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important about Abby." Ellie squeezed my arm. "I'll go check on the upstairs bathroom fixtures. Take your time." When she was gone, Mary's facade dropped. Girlfriend and business partner. That was fast. It's been a year. "What's going on with Abby?" "She's fine." That was just an excuse. She looked around the kitchen. "This place is beautiful. Thank you. Is there something you actually needed?" She took a deep breath. Richard's sentencing was finalized yesterday. He got 4 years eligible for parole in 2. I know it was in the paper. What you don't know is that he gave the prosecutors information about everyone involved with Riverside. Her voice shook. "Including me?" I stared at her. What are you saying? They're charging me as an accessory. My lawyer says I'll probably get probation, maybe a few months at most, but maybe. She started to cry. Jake, I can't go to jail. What about Abby? The old me would have rushed to comfort her to fix her problems. The new me stood my ground. What exactly do you want from me? Marry a character witness, someone to testify that I was just following orders, that I'm a good mother, a good person who made a mistake. I almost laughed. After everything you want me to lie for you, it's not lying. I am a good mother, and I did make a mistake. The biggest one in my life, losing you. Through the window, I could see Ellie in the backyard measuring the patio for furniture. My new life, honest and full of potential. Mary represented everything I'd left behind. The lease, the betrayal, the person I used to be. I can't do that. I said finally, I won't lie for you, not even to keep you out of jail. That's what got you into this mess in the first place. Lies built on lies. You want me to go to prison, the mother of your child. I don't want anything bad for you, Mary. But your choices have consequences. Mine did too, the differ. And says I chose to rebuild. You chose to keep lying. Her face hardened. You're enjoying this. Aren't you seeing me suffer while you play house with your new girlfriend? I'm not enjoying any of it, but I'm not responsible for your choices either. You'll regret this, she said, turning to leave. When Abby asks why you let her mother go to jail, what will you tell her the truth? Always the truth. After she left, Ellie came back inside. Everything. Okay, I pulled her close. It will be in the end. Mary didn't go to jail. Her cooperation with the broader investigation earned her leniency. 3 years probation and community service. Richard, from his prison cell, tried to appeal his sentence by claiming Mary was equally culpable, but no one believed him anymore. The most unexpected turn came 6 months later when the county announced plans to audit all homes built by Riverside Construction over the past decade for potential safety issues. Matthews Restoration was among 5 companies selected to perform the inspections and accessory repairs funded by the sale of Richard's seized assets. It was a strange feeling walking through homes Richard had built, identifying and fixing the corners he'd cut, making things right for families who had unknowingly been put at risk. It wasn't just business. It was redemption. Not just for me, but for the whole community. One evening, as I inspected a home's foundation, the owner, a young father with 2 small children, asked me, "How did you know about Wells and his fraud?" I thought about Mary, about the Christmas party, about all the choices that had led me here. Let's just say I learned the hard way that some things aren't built to last, I replied. But with the right materials and honest work, almost anything can be restored. The hardest part was explaining to Abby why her parents weren't together, why her mother was in legal trouble, why everything had changed. I never spoke ill of Mary to our daughter, but I didn't shield her from age-appropriate truths either. Sometimes adults make mistakes. I told her one night as I tucked her into bed at my new house, big mistakes that hurt people they love. The important thing is what you do after the mistake. Whether you try to fix it or whether you keep making it worse. Is that what Mommy did, make a mistake? Worse. I chose my words carefully. Your mom got caught up in something bad, and she didn't know how to get out. But she's trying to fix it now, and you did. You make mistakes too. I did. I admitted I wasn't always the best husband or father, but I'm trying to be better every day. She seemed satisfied with that, wrapping her arms around my neck in a fierce hug. I love you, Daddy. I love you too. Pumpkin more than anything. Howard Garrison's project was completed ahead of schedule under B. Adjudant to universal acclaim. Matthews Restoration was featured in Southern Living magazine, bringing in high-end clients from across the Southeast. I was building a legacy of quality and integrity, the exact opposite of Richard Wells's crumbling empire of lies. Ellie and I moved in together after dating for a year. She brought warmth and light back into my life, in ways I hadn't thought possible after Mary's betrayal. We talked about marriage sometimes, but we were in no rush. We were building something solid, something true. Mary eventually found work at a small accounting firm, humbled by her fall from grace, but slowly rebuilding her own life. For Abby's sake, we established a civil co-parenting relationship. Though the trust between us was irreparably broken, and Richard, he served his time, was released after 3 years and left town. His reputation destroyed, his fortune gone. I heard he was working as a site manager for a construction company in another state. A dramatic fall for a man who once owned T-Tie. He biggest firm in the county one spring afternoon. As I stood on the porch of our home watching Abby and Ellie plant flowers in the garden, I reflected on the journey of the past 2 years, from betrayal to redemption, from anger to peace. Mary had been right about one thing, though not in the way she meant it. Revenge did taste sweeter than love, not because I'd actively sought to destroy her, but because I'd refused to be destroyed. I'd rebuilt myself stronger and better than before. Sometimes living well truly is the best revenge music.